Okay, so here we go. So apologies for that, viewers. Okay, just got to test. So what we decided to do is that we've gone from the safer way to do this is because people have got things to do, so we can't do a full 50% race distance. So what we're going to do, we're going to go from the last lap where the safety car was called out, so that was lap 13, and do a 25% race from there to decide the final one, and hopefully make sure this doesn't happen again for 82. So thank you all for bearing with us, and hopefully we can give a relatively safety car free event. This one is on safety car is reduced, so it's not on full simulation or realism mode, it's on reduced at the moment, so hopefully that should do the trick. We're just waiting for players to ready up, sort out their strategies, etc, etc. But then we should be getting underway. So if you're sticking with us, obviously apologies, obviously because it was a bit of a madness with that glitch lobby. We're putting out safety car after safety car. And here we have it, guys. We have 15 seconds now to count down the start of the race. I think to myself, what a wonderful game. You put that song in my head now, Padge. What a wonderful world. So, all in all, thanks for bearing with us. So that's pretty much started the order for the final, for the last 20%, 25% rather, of this race. 25% of this race. So I agree. I echo Padge's comments there. So thank you everybody once again for your continued patience in watching this event. This one hasn't been particularly easy, but we do appreciate you sticking with us to deal with the lobby. So no need to apologise to me, mate. It's still fun. It's still fun commentating on these streams. These things happen at the end of the day, so no need to apologise to me, Padge. I'm just happy to be in the commentary booth. See, so majority are going on to softs and mediums now, so strategy's kind of gone out the window here. But as you see, at least the crowd have turned up in force, and we're going to get more action that we got in the whole of the Belgian Grand Prix, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. It's not quite the end of the world, but from the chaos, let's see, John B is only starting in 7th place. So he's benefited greatly, and TRT Lucifer is actually, well, he's gained 2 places, but seems to have lost out a little bit with the restarts and everything happening all at once. So, Run Amok has got he's got a few cars between himself and John B. He's got to pull away. Oh, and the Ferrari of Ripley looks to have spun. There's quite a lot of people are still slipping before they make it out to the grid, it seems. But it's soft tyres high enough for the race leader, and TRT Lucifer comes around on soft tyres as well. John B also on the soft tyres. So they're all going for very similar strategies. They know they cannot afford to leave anything on the table when it comes to distance and times. They have got to make a move, and they need to do it now. As the last AlphaTauri there of Bullet comes up to follow up the rest of the grid. It's been a little bit of trouble getting here to the grid, and hopefully we can hope for a clean session with very little safety cars in the way. Hopefully you can get more than one lap of racing in here. As the Thrive lights go out, we are going to be racing once more at the Hungaroring. And we are underway. It looks like Runnermark looks to have gotten a good start so far from the grid. Oh, there's carnage behind Supermac there. Is out of the race. And Sean Gregory is out of the race as well. So, seems like a little bit clumsy. And just as I thought, yet another safety car has been deployed. Once again. But, certainly been a little bit of carnage going across there. I mean, hopefully, I can see why it would come out there, because it was quite a hefty collision, and John B has actually got... Has he got damage? He's got penalty for collision, but I think he's got damage as well, possibly on his car. Let's see if once he comes across the times. His front wing looks fine. Just wondering if AMS Fairley has got damage either. Now, his car looks to be okay. But I suppose it makes sense. Please, can this please work, guys? Please. I want you guys to sit down and enjoy at least one lap of full racing with me. God, this is like watching a game of American football. It's so stop and start this, as the safety car has already gone past turn 1 to pick up the rest of the... Did Supermac reserve for crash out lap 1 at Silverstone 2? I can't remember last time out, Padge. But that's a very interesting start. Run amok now already, looking to get off those soft tyres. John B, everyone else looking to go straight off the soft tyres, which means Mr. Wiggles will inherit the lead. Flow32, great to see you on board the chat. First time chat. Thank you for coming on board. And Run amok goes onto the hard tyres. Where does he come out? He comes out in 10th place. But everyone else in front of him is definitely going to have to stop. But that changes things, certainly for the long haul. So we could expect, at least by the end of lap 3, as I think it's pretty predictable, these safety cars at the moment. But expect at the end of lap 3, the safety car to pull in at the end of that lap, just so we can go back to getting some racing. But that collision at the start was quite... it looked a little bit clumsy by some ways. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I imagine somebody will have their collar felt by the stewards for that one. As Run amok actually gives up track position to inherit the lead. And John B, interestingly, has gone into medium tyres. And Lucifer as well onto medium tyres. So they're playing a bit of a dangerous game here. Lucky the safety car will play into the hands somewhat in terms of tyre life. But it's a very dangerous game that John B is playing to make sure he can get to the end. Because I'm not quite sure on a big load of fuel that those confidence... that the confidence that the tyres will actually go through, because they're not actually going to be burning that much of fuel behind the safety car, so hopefully they will have under fuel to compensate for that somewhat. As TRT Lucifer comes to round up the pack, obviously running towards that safety car Delta, it seems. He doesn't look like he's absolutely on the heels of catching that safety car, but running to the Delta. It won't be long, as you can see in front of him there. APS Greg and the Mercedes is in front of him there. Won't be long before. It won't be long before he catches up to the back, and with that we can finally get back racing. It's true, you can't win it on the first lap, but you can definitely lose it. Can't blame me for yawning. And IRL Hyper has got a 5-second time penalty for collision with Sim. Does that mean that the Williams has got damage on that car? Doesn't quite look like it, but if they have registered contacts, hopefully that doesn't quite lose him the time that he needs. Yeah, lost half of it. There's only 13 racing at the 13 watching at the moment, so hopefully they can take the steps to make sure this doesn't happen again, because I appreciate for the viewers it's certainly a confusing experience, but hopefully that takes steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. And as predicted, the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, which means Wiggles has got his work cut out for him. He's on medium tyres, but from about 10th place down, they have all opted to box and take on a new set. So there's almost like going to be two different races going on here. Those who are going long and those who are going to be absolutely punching it. And that's exactly what Wiggles has done. He has punched it and he's underway. And Iros J behind him now in the Alfa Romeo. What's the closest battle on track so far? It's the Aston Martin fighting now with Millsy in the McLaren. As he goes down to the inside, is he going to look for a move? No, he's not. Plays it very sensibly there, and Platty has overtaken Ripley in the Ferrari. APS Greg has fallen down to 17th, so already TRT is overtaken. Fairley now has fallen down to 15th after being overtaken by FRA John B. The Alpines are on the charge. And also Fairley's fallen way back there, so it doesn't look like he's gotten the exit that he's wanted at all. Keep it clean Cobra Kai style, because you know what they say, Cobra Kai never dies and all that. Wiggles now leads. He's only got about 3/10 in it now between him and Iros J. Iros J right on the back of him, and it's going to be a very, very close one with KZ Babo is onto the soft tyre, so he's going to be a little bit stumped, I think, for going long. But so far, he's done well, and so far the safety car hasn't yet come out. It's, yeah, it seems to be playing ball with us. We have done it, folks. I mean, when they come across the line, we are going to do the impossible. We will be getting one full lap of racing. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it. He comes across the line, and already that is a victory for us in itself. God, I know I'm not cheering about much. There's already a train forming now behind IIRL Hyper, who's dropped over a second back. And look at Platty now going down the inside of the Ferrari. A little bit of contact there, it seems, but he's gotten through. Platty has gotten it up into 10th position. Runamuk already in P8. And Ripley down, and 10-10 as well up into 12th position. Already the Alpines of John B is up into 13th and 15th respectively. So it's the Alfa Romeo of 10-10 who's got to fight FRA John B now to stop him from getting past. But already, if you can see with Platty at the moment, he is really on the charge. And it's already, look, can he get down the inside into the chicane? Yes, he pushes Hyper out wide, and he does it. Lovely piece of driving there. As the front, everything looks to have stabilised somewhat. It's roughly about 5/10 in between each car. They're very close, very line astern. And the next battle we have on board is the Bullet up against APS Appy in the Haas. Only 2/10 between the two now. And 10-10 on hard tyres versus John B on softs. It won't be long before John B is really on the back of him there. And what can the AlphaTauri do behind the hand? 3/10 now. DRS has now been enabled as the battle gets very much closer up front. Iros J now takes the lead past the AlphaTauri of Mr. Wiggles, and that is exactly what he needs to maximise his chances. And AMS Fairley looks to have crashed out and retired, I think, from the session, and a virtual safety car has been deployed. Well, at least we've got 2 laps in there. Fairley has left the session, so commiserations to him. It wasn't quite the session that he would have wanted. But I don't suspect it'll be long, hopefully, before they clear up that car, and we can end up and getting the racing back underway. But Iros J needed that. He needed to be up there in that position. It all depends now who can get the best restart, as the 2 Alpines are 13th and 14th, and they'll be very, very close now on the back of 10-10. Won't be long now, I think, before the VSC decides to pull in, and it has pulled in and it's ended. And under these conditions, DRS is still enabled. It's not disabled like what happened with the full safety car. But what's happening behind Run Amok now is in 8th position, right behind the Haas. Won't be long, I suspect, before he comes through. You can see him almost pushing him along there. Just so close behind is the Williams, who is undoubtedly on fresher tyres and arguably the better strategy. He'll have about 20 seconds or so in his pocket when the guys in front of him decide to pit. And what's happened to APS Greg? APS Greg looks to, I think, have spun behind there as the Williams goes up into 7th position. Relatively clean racing so far. IIRL Hyper actually loses out to both the Alpines, both of them already back on the charge, and 1010 will have his work cut out for him to try and get past the Ferrari, and it's very hard to overtake around the rest of the track, so I highly suspect what you'll find is that the two Alpines will be right on the back of him. If he can stay with the cars in front, he'll at least have DRS coming into the next section there. But Platty now has overtaken APS Appy in the other Haas, and it's running provisionally 7th and 8th position for those going on the longer tyre. They're not quite getting away though, and with Bullet only dropping back by 2 seconds, so he's struggling to keep up, I think, with the pace of the front runners. That may very well play into the hands of the top 5, who really need to pull the gap, because they are the ones who are going to lose about 20 seconds when they come into the pit stops. But if they're going to be too busy fighting with each other, then that's going to play very much into the likes of Run Amok, Platty, APS Appy. I think Appy is actually on, no, he's not. He's actually on the longer he stayed out before, so he's not on that quite strategy. As we'll ride on board with FRA John B, who is still right behind the Avatari. And what's happened there? We've had the Red Bull that's gone out. I think that may well have crashed out, and Hyper as well has come into the pits, I think, probably to retire. I highly suspect, please don't do it, please don't say that there'll be a safety car. We're already on lap 8 at the moment. We need to get through plenty of racing here, so please don't pull out the safety car. We've had enough of them today. With Greg falling down, mind you, it's still P12 and P13 though for the Alpine, so they're not quite getting on the back as we would have wanted. Ripley hasn't quite had the best race, starting from pole position and then going down from the rest of the field. I mean, the top 6, without a doubt, they're going to have to pit, so that's going to play very much into Run Amok's hands. But they're not exactly pulling away. You have to remember, these guys are on fresher tyres. They may be on hards, but they're on fresher tyres, which does make all the difference when it comes to those extra few tenths that you need to pull out the gap. Now, this could be crucial. Look at John B all over the back of 1010. He's 3 tenths behind now, but 1010 crucially is going to get DRS, so hopefully that should be enough to protect him from the Alpine. Let's go on board with him to see what he does. He has to cover, and John B goes round to the outside, and he's looking to get a move done. Didn't quite miss that there. Who came out on top? And it looks like John B has come out on top. He has passed. That was a lovely piece of driving there, but they're still fighting. 1010 has fought him back, and he got the position back. John B goes round to the outside, and that Alfa Romeo has done a blinding job holding off the 2 faster Alpines behind him. And look at that, KZ has fallen back 11 seconds behind this pair, but with the fresher tyres, you should theoretically start to claw that back. Bullet has gone onto soft tyres, and APS Greg, unfortunately with spin earlier, is down in 14th and last place. Catching back up with the leaders. Iros J has pulled the second gap that he needs, but what is he going to do in terms of pitting? He's not pitting at the moment, he's staying out. That could work for him, putting out onto the soft tyres, so 1010 still doing more than enough to hold on to the position, but now Run Amok is under pressure from Platty, who's now out on the soft compound, on the medium rather, the compound tyres. And 1010 has gotten close enough to Appy to be able to defend his position from John B. I had to say, that was a lovely piece of defence there from the Alfa Romeo driver. As the 2 Alpines look to be fighting each other, it seems. But they're not going to do anything silly. They had a brilliant 1-2, and it looks like these things have just not quite gone their way in terms of positions of where they need to be in terms of clawing up the order. But at least there's 1 point in it for FRA John B. He's playing a bit of a dangerous game to make sure he goes long in the strategy. So let's look ahead to see what's happening with the front field. Yes, the closest gap on figures at the moment is between STB and Millsy in the McLaren. But as the gaps are changing all the time, so as soon as I say it's the closest, I could be wrong by the next time somebody else crosses the line. And there's Platty at the moment, still 3/10 behind Run Amok. But if he's going long, which I highly suspect that he will, he's going to have a much harder time using up those tyres trying to overtake him. And Appy loses the rear coming out. There's still 3/10 in it now between himself and the Alpine. But has Appy got DRS? He has. But 1010 has got to put a buffer between himself and the Alpine, but it's not quite as good. What's happened is we've got something of a DRS train as TRT takes a lot of curb as Bullet sets the fastest lap. 1010 has done brilliantly so far to resist the pressure of the two Alpines, who are still very much on his back. But this is just the consequence of racing on this track. It's very, very tricky to find a place to overtake, as Platty is finding behind Run Amok. He's now 5 seconds behind the leaders, but on hard tyres, theoretically, he could get to the end. It's just a question of when the leaders actually decide to come in. It's 4/10 now behind Millsy in the McLaren. What is Iros J going to do? He's done 11 laps on those medium tyres, and yep, he is coming in, and Wiggles is coming in. Millsy and STB opt to stay out, and Platty has come off as well. Unfortunately, one of the Mercedes has come off quite badly in sections 2 and 3. I think it may be KZ, but the 1010 he's got the DRS he needs to defend from John B. But John B goes to the inside. He does a very daring move and absolutely almost yeets him out of the way. But it looks like he's just ahead. Is he going to attempt to move down the outside? Let's go on board to race with these guys. I'm really enjoying this. So John B is going to be set up very well to take the inside. And look at that. It's yellow in sector 3. There may be KT having another off, but 1010 unfortunately could not hold off to FRA John B, who has got up into 6th position now after what was a very ballsy overtaking manoeuvre. But let's see if the tyres can hold off in the end. Thankfully, Run Amok's tyres are the same age, but he's on hard, so theoretically he should have some laps over. I agree, our race. This is certainly brilliant racing indeed. Although it hasn't been a day for Mercedes. As the two leaders now come into the pit, so that's Millsy and STB in the McLaren and Aston Martin respectively into the pits, which means Run Amok now will inherit the lead. With the buffer that he's pulled in front of Platty, you'll hope that the tyres start to go off before he decides to come into his own. Well, looking at back, the DRS doesn't seem to be that entirely powerful here, but it's still advantage Run Amok. Looks like he's doing just enough to defend from the Haas, but FRA John B now. Oh, and Run Amok looks to have gone wide. Is this an opportunity for Platty? He looks to go around the outside, but no, unfortunately, he couldn't quite capitalise on that unless he pulls off a daring move into the chicane, which I think he keeps his sensible hat on there. Oh, when 1010 unfortunately loses the back end, it seems. Millsy is still ahead of STB as they come out of the pits. So the highest runner there on soft compound tyres is Iros J. So he's 5 seconds now behind TRT Lucifer, who are on 10 lap old mediums. The differential in pace between the two is going to be immense, it seems, but those on the medium tyres especially, who pitted at the end of the first safety car period, I think they're very much going to suffer coming towards the end of this race, which will certainly play into Run Amok's hands, as he's got 5 cars at the moment in between himself and the cars in front and the cars behind him. But unfortunately, Platty Selton and Dummy goes down to the inside, and Platty now has taken the lead, but Run Amok looks to have fought him back. He hasn't got DRS though. What can Run Amok do? And it looks like he may very well have lost out, but they're still side by side. What a show that they're putting on here. And Run Amok has gone down to the, it looks like maybe the inside, maybe the outside there. And look at that. Platty now takes the lead going into lap 14. And that really was a brilliant piece of driving. And with the tyres going off and how hard it is to overtake here, well, he made that one look relatively easy. That is going to play very much into his hands. He makes that IIRL. He has to look quite fast, if I'm honest. We'll go up to the front. We'll stick with the front runners now to see what they will do. They're about separated by about 5/10 apiece. But Run Amok now will still have the life in his tyres, but in terms of immediate pace, maybe the mediums are actually holding on better off than what we thought. Well, off than what I thought, rather. He has DRS, though, to protect himself from the Ferrari. Let's ride on board with the Alpine of John B, who is 5/10 now behind the Ferrari. He's closing very much, so I don't know whether he used overtake. It goes down the inside, barges his way past the Ferrari, so it's very little in terms of contact there. And there we go, the Alpine is up into third position. This could yet again be another storming drive when there's only about 4 laps to go, it seems. It looks like the medium tyres will hold on. As John B goes up into third position with almost a hard like of 3 laps to go. Can John B recover from crashing out to actually win this race? Well, he pulled off a brilliant drive in Silverstone last time out to do it, and it won't be long before he's absolutely on the back of Run Amok, who is dropping pace at the moment. He's gone wide. John B now look at that. Oh, and a little bit of contact there between the two. That's rather naughty, it seems. Absolutely trading blows with each other physically, but Run Amok is not willing to get that position up. Just keep it clean, guys. Just keep it very, very clean. And with going wide like that, I don't think the tyres are working with him. But Ripley is now on the back of John B in the Ferrari. Who knows what's going to happen here? But Run Amok does not have DRS. The Alpine goes to the outside, but the Ferrari goes up the inside. John B has got... Oh, it's very hard to form words in my mouth here. This is so tense. 3 laps to go, and TRT Lucifer goes around the outside of the Alfa Romeo 1010. Which means TRT Lucifer is now up into 5th position, and unfortunately it's a great defense there from 1010. Unfortunately, the hard tyres do not seem to be working. Seems those who went for the mediums have done themselves a well. Platty, this is all going to be helping him massively, because that 2-second barrier, I don't think that's going to be enough for John B. About 2 laps theoretically to go after he passes Run Amok. Won't be much until what he can do. I wonder whether that Alpine has actually got damage from that collision with Run Amok. They were very, very close, the two, it must be said. There were 13 lap on mediums, or whether the tyres are going off. I'm not entirely sure what's happening here. Okay, so Ripley on the back of John B, and TRT Lucifer as well on the back of the Ferrari. Overtakes on, he goes down to the outside, but darts back. So hopefully doesn't quite get the overtake done. It went round to the outside, but it's a very, very hard to place the pass around there. This is the penultimate lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix, which admittedly has been down to some farcical circumstances with the glitched lobby and whatnot, but still, this is a very, very tense race. IIRL J now is on the back of his teammate by 2/10. Those who put on the soft tire, it does not seem to have worked. The glitches always seem to play into John B's hands, says Padge, and is not entirely wrong. And IIRL J has passed his Alfa Romeo teammate and is up into 6th position, is right on the back of TRT Lucifer. With those fresh soft tyres, he's got all the grip in the world, and won't be long before he passes him as well, as John B goes very, very wide off that corner. John B has dropped to a 2nd behind Run Amok, and that's going to leave him vulnerable to the Ferrari, who sniffs the opportunity for a podium. He's just got to get a good exit here. Let's go on board with the Ferrari and see what he does. But the rear end steps out. That's not quite with him. As we go down the straight, it looks like that rear end stepping out has given John B just enough of the buffer that he needs to maintain that position, as Lucifer now passes the Ferrari. This is absolutely crazy stuff as the Alpine and IIRL J makes a very, very late move and passes the Ferrari for 5th position. Now the Alpines are going to be under threat from the last Alfa Romeo on soft tyres going into the final stretch. Platty, though, on the lead has done more than enough to save his tyres and save his chances of winning this Grand Prix. And Ripley looks to have spun in the Ferrari, which is a massive shame for him, just to compound the woes that he's had ever since he started this race from pole position. It just hasn't quite gone his way. John B looks like we're going to take P3, but look at the Alfa Romeo behind. It's going to be a very late lunge, I think, from the Alfa Romeo. It looks very, very close, but TRT Lucifer looks to have covered it. We're going to go on board with the race leader now, who is only 4 tenths ahead, and Ripley has retired from the session, which is a massive shame for him. But Platty has come down to win this race after making the medium strategy work. Platty wins the Grand Prix. John B takes 3rd position. TRT Lucifer finishes in 4th. IIRL J 5th, and the Alfa Romeo of 1010 in 6th position. STB Semi is in 7th, Bullet is in 8th, and Appy and Millsy will come through to take P9 and P10 respectively. That looks like to be an absolutely bonkers race that we've had with all these shenanigans that went on with the glitches in the lobby with the safety car. But at least we got the race ended. We've done better than what the FIA have done during the Belgian Grand Prix, as the 2 Mercedes, to compend a miserable weekend for them, come through in P1 and P2. Certainly an absolutely crazy race that we've had today, and thank you for everybody for sticking with us. I know it was quite weird circumstances with the glitch lobby bringing out safety car after safety car. Here's me hoping Cody's will sort that out later the time, but nevertheless it was still a fine end to the race, and I appreciate everybody for sticking with us for that time being. So we're just going to go and just run over the standings of this. So we have Platty won the race in the Haas from Runner Muck, who finishes 2nd in the Williams by 3 tenths of a second. John B and Lucifer, the Alpines, both recovered to P3 and 4 after a brilliant recovery from them after their Q1 troubles. IIRL J is in 5th, and followed by his teammate 1010 in 6th. STB is 7th in the Aston Martin, and Appy is 10th in the Haas, 8th in the Haas. Bullet is in 9th in the Alpha Tauri, and Millsy is 10th in the McLaren, rounding out the points. So going down the order, we obviously have KZ and Greg, fortunately 11th and 12th for Mercedes, compending a not too good weekend for them. Ripley 13th in Ferrari after crashing out, so commiserations to him after he defended quite heavily from pole position. Mr. Wiggles 14th in the Alpha Tauri. We had Hyper 15th in the Williams, Semp 16th in the Red Bull, Fairley 17th, Supermac 8th, and Sean Gregory P19. So there we go, guys. That looks to be the end of this particular round. It's a bit longer than usual and a little bit chaotic than usual, so apologies for that. So next time out we will be in Belgium, and for the, as I think already, like I said before, you're already guaranteed to have a better race than what we had going on there, because the Belgium Prix, we're actually going to have a race, and hopefully not one glitch with safety cars next time. So thank you all for bearing with us, and if you're new to join us, and do follow the IIRL channel. We have races every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday, so do stick around for those. It'll be an absolute pleasure having you guys on board, and thank you all very, very much for following us for the stream, and I will see you guys hopefully next weekend. Hopefully moving in goes okay for the next stream. Thank you very much, and good night.